Oh, DC. For all that I love your comics, your films just haven't quite cut the mustard yet, bar a few exceptions. Like, come on, it's DC. WB aren't at a disadvantage when it comes to source material, so why all the Jared Leto and why all the off-screen drama? It's a question that continues to prove elusive, but one that isn't pertains to all the great stuff audiences were going to see on screen, only for it to be yanked away at the last second. Between budgetary issues, mid-film rewrites, and brutal re-editing in post-production, practically every DCEU movie has its share of enticing sequences cleaved from the end product. These 10 scenes, from jaw-dropping reveals to awesome set pieces and vital morsels of character development, were binned at various stages of conception and, to date, have never been released to the public. So, let's get this started, shall we? I'm Ewan, this is What Culture, and here are 10 scrap DCEU scenes we desperately wanted to see. Number 10. Black Suit Superman, Justice League. While Justice League was shooting, it was heavily rumored that Superman's resurrection would see him don his iconic black suit from the comics, complete with a beard and long hair. Henry Cavill himself exacerbated those rumors by posting a mysterious image to social media teasing the costume pre-release. Yet, when the film finally came out, the coveted black Superman suit was nowhere to be seen. It was later revealed that Zack Snyder's original intent was to feature the black suit, to the extent of even shooting scenes of Henry Cavill wearing it. Justice League's costume designer then implied it was scrapped due to the film's tonal change in reshoots, where Superman was re-envisioned as his more traditionally optimistic red and blue character. The suit sadly only appeared briefly in one of the film's deleted scenes, and to date not a single image of Cavill in the black costume has ever made its way online. Number 9. The Shark Guard Feeding Frenzy, Aquaman. Aquaman may be far from a great movie, but director James Wan was at least unafraid to lead into the weirdness of the titular character and his underwater world. However, there was one sequence in the script which was ultimately vetoed by Wan on the grounds of being, quote, a bit weird, and it was to take place once Arthur was captured by his half-brother Orm, aka the Ocean Master. In the final scene, we see Arthur chained up in front of Orm, but originally he was meant to be thrown into a dungeon deep in Atlantis, where all of the guards were sharks. In order to escape, Arthur would provoke a prison riot, killing one of the guards and causing the other sharks to start a feeding frenzy over its bloody remains. Wan's reaction was, quote, I don't know if I can do that, and sadly the scene was ultimately nixed before filming began. On the upside, we did at least get that sick octopus drummer, so snakes and ladders really. Number 8. The robot battle on Krypton, Man of Steel. It's no secret that the opening Krypton sequence in Man of Steel was originally meant to be much longer, but one of the concepts which never made it before cameras was an epic battle between Jor-El's and Zod's robotic minions. Jor-El's service robot Kelex, who is featured in the actual movie, would don an armored robotic body in order to fight Zod's mechanical war dogs. Mechanical war dogs. God, that writes itself. The battle would conclude with Kelex blowing itself up in an act of self-sacrifice to give Jor-El enough time to evacuate Baby Clark from the doomed planet. Ultimately, the fight was cut during production due to budgetary constraints. Yet, given that the Krypton prologue is arguably Man of Steel's strongest sequence, this throwdown could have made it even better. Number 7. CYBORG'S Origins, Justice League. Though numerous superheroes had their character development severely hampered due to Justice League's well-documented post-production woes, nobody suffered more from the executive sister job than Ray Fisher's Cyborg. Despite Justice League being mooted as the character's coming out party ahead of his planned 2020 solo movie, which has now effectively been scrapped, insert sad booyah here, the superhero's role was significantly reduced in the final cut of the film. In actuality, Zack Snyder filmed a ton of scenes depicting Cyborg's backstory, showing him playing football for Gotham City University, as briefly seen in the movie's earlier trailers, and the car accident which killed his mother. These scenes were all shot and in various stages of post-production when they were scrapped in order to streamline the narrative and keep it under 2 hours, as mandated by nervous Warner Brothers, who were eager to get a win after 2 back-to-back critical misfires in Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. Number 6. Henry Cavill's cameo, Shazam. Perhaps the funniest moment in Shazam is the very final scene, where Freddy is shocked to have lunched with not only Shazam himself, but his new pal Superman, as seen from the neck down. However, the final version of the scene that appears in the movie was decidedly different from the original plan. Henry Cavill was actually supposed to make a cameo, but when scheduling conflicts prevented him from appearing, the decision was made to shoot the scene sans face. Director David F. Sandberg said of the original scripted version, he sat down at the table, they had a brief chat, there was a joke about school food, and then it ended with Freddy just leading into him and going like, I have so many questions, and then it cut out. While you can argue that a below-the-neck Superman made the gag even funnier, having Cavill show up would have given Supes a much-needed post-Justice League boost, especially considering the embarrassment of his infamous digital mustache removal in Justice League, and how he's now probably never going to be Superman again. Sorry. Number 5. Batman meets the Green Lanterns, Justice League. I have a bone to pick with that 2011 Green Lantern movie. Granted, it's a bone I've been picking at for 8 years now, but there's no underestimating the damage that train wreck did to the Green Lantern license. What should have been DC's Star Wars became the butt of jokes for years to come, and even set DC's own cinematic universe back by about 2 more years as a result. Fortunately, WB have finally saw fit to look past the 2011 disaster and greenlit a Green Lantern Corps film a few years ago. They even had a brief blink and you'll miss it cameo in Justice League, but they were originally intended to have a somewhat greater role. In Zack Snyder's original version of Justice League, he filmed a post-credits scene in which Bruce Wayne is awoken in the middle of the night by a bright green light, after which he has a brief interaction with Green Lanterns Tomar Ray and Kilowog. The crowd-pleasing potential of this scene speaks for itself, yet in an attempt to streamline the film's focus, it was ditched relatively early during post-production. Boo! Number 4. Killer Croc's backstory, Suicide Squad. It's no secret that, like Justice League, Suicide Squad was hacked to pieces in post-production, resulting in a charmless Frankenstein's monster of conflicting tones, rushed characterization, and schlocky dialogue. This caused several of the squad's members to feel underdeveloped, especially sewer-dwelling cannibal Killer Croc, who, in the final film, is effectively a minor character beholden to some rather, shall we say, questionable racial stereotypes. However, the original shooting script featured a far larger role for Croc, whose backstory was explored as a social outcast reviled for his grotesque physical appearance. He was also to be seen working as a henchman for Gotham's elite criminals and crossing paths with Batman as a result, while secretly plotting to usurp his powerful bosses one day in the future. That certainly sounds far more interesting than the thin sketch of a character we ended up with, though it isn't clear whether or not these scenes were ever actually shot. Either way, their elimination was misguided. Number 3. DARKSEID arrives, Justice League. Batman v Superman's trippy nightmare sequence teased the appearance of the villainous Darkseid in a future DCEU movie, and most fans rightly expected the iconic antagonist to have some sort of a role in Justice League. That didn't end up happening, with his uncle Steppenwolf instead serving as the film's underwhelming primary supervillain. But Darkseid was yet another casualty of Justice League's bungled production, as Snyder originally intended for the character to appear at the end of the movie, providing the lead into the planned Justice League Part 2. Justice League would have originally provided 2 glimpses of Darkseid. Firstly, when Steppenwolf forces Superman to view a version of the nightmare, and at the very end of the film when a defeated Steppenwolf returns to Apokolips and is killed by Darkseid, who then prepares to head to Earth to face the Kryptonian. In these filmed yet incomplete scenes, Darkseid was played by actor Ray Porter, with the idea being that he would become the Thanos-like antagonist of the DCEU moving forward. But in a presumed attempt to make Justice League an accessible one-off team-up movie, Darkseid's presence was nixed from the final cut. Oh well, at least he's appearing in Ava DuVernay and Tom King's New Gods movie. Number 2. Harley Quinn's wedding, Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn was one of Suicide Squad's few characters actually served relatively well by the theatrical cut. The director David Ayer still shot far more material for the iconic character than has ever been released. A behind-the-scenes photo published in the China Times shortly after the film's release showed Harley Quinn wearing what appears to be a grungy red and blue wedding dress, and it doesn't take much deduction to assume that the scene was going to feature Harley getting married to the Joker. While the immediate assumption might be that this was a cut part of Harley's perfect family fantasy briefly seen in the movie, Harley's eccentric getup doesn't really vibe with Harley and the Joker's more conventional appearance in that scene, so we'll have to take a wild swing at exactly how it would have fit in the film. Ah well, onwards and upwards as they say. At least Birds of Prey won't be skimping on those magnificent outfits. And number 1, Superman hears Metropolis' pain. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. One of the many narrative issues in Batman v Superman is the Man of Steel's inability to hear Martha Kent's cries for help with his superpowered hearing. And when an interviewer mentioned this to Zack Snyder, he went into extensive detail about a deleted scene relating to Superman's oral abilities. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Snyder explained that there was a cut sequence where Superman tries to locate his kidnapped Earth mother, but as he attempts to zero in on her voice, he can hear anguished screams from all of the crimes taking place across Metropolis at the same time. Snyder ended up cutting it for being too dark, which is saying something by his standards, given that it would imply Superman effectively picks and chooses his rescue targets and leaves plenty of victims to their own fates. It's a practical reality of the character if he lived in the real world for sure, but one most fans don't want to be reminded of. Still, with all that said, it would have been fascinating to see Superman in anguish over this, even if many may have found it too dour. And that was our list on all the best scenes we never got to see in the DCEU. Let us know if there were any you wish hadn't been cut in the comments below, and while you're there, why not like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want more. You can follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCulture, and you can watch me lie in anguish about the state of Green Lantern at Ewan Ruins Things. Have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye!